Welcome back, everybody. We're getting ready for our last game of the day, and Taco, it's winner take all here. Noble versus the SPL Gatekeepers. Winner's going to the summer split.
And it would be absolutely, heartbreaking for Noble if they find themselves out of the SPL from this game. But Kiki and the boys are looking to make it back into it. I know that Kiki and Skeely have been itching for some SPL gameplay.
Of course. I mean, these are guys who were in the SPL before, had a lot of success there. Kiki in particular has been on very, very many winning teams. Season 2 in particular between Envy and AFK and all those guys. But now they're trying to just get back into the SPL, and they've got Noble to go through. Some veterans on that roster as well. MLC Stealth, the one of note in the mid lane, and SPL Gatekeepers immediately focusing out Aquarius, though, banning out Osiris.
Not even necessarily focusing out Aquarius, it's just Osiris is such a dominant solo lane pick right now. The cleave on his auto attacks, just so much pressure early on, you might as well eliminate that aspect. Without
a doubt. Chang'e banned away by Noble as well, and SPL Gatekeepers going right to the back to the solo lane. This seems to be what every first pick team is going for, is this Osiris Bellona ban. Why do we see this so much?
It's with the combination of Death Soul and the fact that they have their cleave auto attack in hands, there's so much sustain available to you in the lane, and you can apply so much pressure to your opposition no matter what they are. Unless it's like a Bellona Osiris matchup, then that's pretty stale, but for the most part, it's just really annoying to deal with.
Well, either way, Noble doesn't want to deal with that Ravid either, so SPL Gatekeepers, they've got the Cernunnos available to them if they want it, but it's going to be the Terra first pick here. Assuming it could be support or solo lane, Kiki could probably play it, because let's be honest, what can't Kiki play in that solo lane? But I could see NeiruMah on it as well.
I could certainly see either of those guys picking up the Terra, and I just like the sustain option that she already provides to SPL Gatekeepers, considering that their playstyle tends to be a little bit more oriented around a team effort, and so I think that that's probably one of the best gods to pick up to help out Skeely in that jungle.
Skeely gets Susano yet again. Noble answered back with selecting their duo lane for Wubbn and Wowy. That's going to be Khepri and Huyi for each respectively. But again, this means Skeely gets that Susano again, and he was just so good on it last game. And it is going to be the Cernunnos for DayToRemeber, who has looked pretty good on this character. Hasn't had the same sort of performances that he had here at LAN, where he was going absolutely nuts on the Rom and the Huyi, but certainly serviceable on that character.
Hey, LAN and online are completely different environments, but SPL Gatekeepers, I mean, they've proven themselves in the past, and whether or not they're about to prove themselves again, that's a pretty sick draft to already have coming through. And Noble's is nothing to scoff at either. Khepri provides great backup for your team, especially now that they have the Hercules to correlate as well with the rest of their draft, because that front line's pretty spooky.
Yeah, it certainly is, and that could be Hercules in the jungle. We saw Cope do it earlier today to not a lot of success, but that was when he was up against Serket, which is a great matchup for the Serket. This time around, doesn't have to worry about that anti-heal ultimate out of the jungle for SPL Gatekeepers. Noble taking some shots at a couple characters there, Morgan and Amaterasu. The Gatekeepers, they're looking at MLC Stealth with that Soul ban. He's played it quite a bit today. Basically every mid laner has played quite a bit of Soul today. That's going to be another mid ban here, though that could be solo as well, but Hades, a character that's been banned a couple times, Taco, but hasn't really been picked quite yet.
I can appreciate the Hades ban. Ever since his buff came through, he deals so much damage, and the lifesteal is just absolutely nuts, and such a nuisance to deal with, especially when you're looking for the bursts such as what Gatekeepers have gone for with the Susano and the Kern.
Well, there's a lot of bursts there for Noble in that mid lane as MLC Stealth locks in the Thoth. Definitely a character that suits his play style. Likes to be a little bit aggressive at times, can use that dash to get in and stun someone, but it really just comes down to that big final judgment ultimate that Stealth loves so much.
And having the Khepri available means that he's going to have plenty of safety net to fall back on should he find himself slightly out of position, or look to even just take the aggressive dash in for the stun setup.
Well, Venenu going for a traditional mage this time around, Vulcan in that mid lane, and Sobek is going to round it out. Probably Kiki on that Sobek in the solo lane. We saw him on it last game, but never know with these guys. SPL Gatekeepers have their draft rounded out. Now we're just waiting for Noble's final selection, either likely to be a solo laner or a jungler, depending on where that Hercules is going to go. The two new members of Noble Esports going to be Aquarius and Cope, and so Cope going back to the Naja had a pretty good performance on it, and it synergizes beautifully with Thoth.
I'd imagine that it's going to be the Sobek as well, facing off against that Hercules. So I think that was a smart selection by Gatekeepers, because he does have the healing reduction on his 3. But the Thoth and the Ja, if Cope and MLC are able to execute this, it's going to be a serious problem for SPL Gatekeepers.
Yeah, a lot of guaranteed burst damage there between the Windfire Wheels and Final Judgment ultimate combination out of the mid jungle. My concern, though, for Cope is that Naja doesn't do particularly well when there's a lot of CC up against him, and Gatekeepers has a ton of CC. How is Cope going to get away from all of these ranged CC abilities?
Patience is really going to be the key here for Cope, because the second that he tries to take in that Sash all too soon, I mean, you already said it, Venenu has the meatball knockup, Skeely's got the pull-in on Susano for the disrupt, and then Kiki, I mean, everybody on SPL Gatekeepers has a way to deal with the Naja, so Copebby just has to wait for the right moment.
Now, Cope does have the advantage of having that Vulcan turret down to guarantee a ring bounce off of if Venenu isn't careful with his turret positioning, but this is a character that Ven has played pretty often, played it here at LAN and performed very, very well on it, so you know he's going to be fairly comfortable, at least on that Vulcan mid-mage. Cope and Aquarius putting some pressure on the right-hand side as they start to invade the enemy speed, and with a Guardian in the solo lane, this is basically what you expect, Taco.
Pretty much. There's not much that SPL Gatekeepers can do, considering that Kiki is on the Sobek, and Naja Hercules are pretty solid at securing early jungle camps.
Cope going to come around back in here in the mid lane, finds the Sash onto Ven, and guarantees his purification beads in addition to getting that additional poke. So good start for Copebby in the jungle, immediately making Venenu a little bit more vulnerable to the amount of CC that Noble has. And we talked about how much his Gatekeepers have, but there's quite a bit on the side of Noble as well.
There is one thing that Naja does provide, even with the amount of disrupt that Gatekeepers has, and that's the early game. That ring toss and the Sash deal so much damage early on, much more than what the Susano can provide, even though the Susano has the setup. But having 3 members available in the mid lane just means that Cope can aggress all day long. And
that's one of the reasons we see Naja again, is that ring toss getting buffed. Another extra bounce provided whenever you hit it. Basically at any time, every rank it gets an extra bounce now. Skeeledon forced to use that jet stream to get away from MLC Stealth after securing those right side mid harpies. So Cope's early game gets better, his late game still is fine. You know, it didn't really take any hurting with that buff, just all across the board. Really, really strong for Naja across all stages with that buff.
And the Gatekeepers might have lost their speed buff, but they're going to be stripping Noble of their red and purple, and that's pretty big compensation for SPL Gatekeepers. You always want to ensure that you're staying on par with the farm, or at least making it so that your enemy has to be wary of the jungle buff cycles. Yeah, 4 buffs going each way. It's just that Gatekeepers, they secure all of the left, and it's going to be Noble securing all of the right. But Aquarius still has his own blue buff to do, and at this rate, that blue buff's going to respawn around the same time as the enemy speed, so it's could be a potential choice to make there. As DayToRemeber is up 2 levels right now over Wowy, and this is something we saw consistently from Noble during the spring split with their old roster, is leaving Wowy on an island and allowing him to just solo farm. It gets him behind in the early game, but does put him in a good position come late game. Wowy is certainly a skilled enough hunter, though, mechanically, to be able to deal with this kind of position that he's been placed into, where he's recognizing he's going to be behind. DayToRemeber has his ultimate available. He needs to be careful. It's very similar to that of Kiki, actually, who Kiki's very well aware that this is a matchup he isn't meant to win early on. Just sitting there waiting for those later stages to come in and be the impact player that we know that Gatekeepers like to have out of that solo lane. Certainly was in the last matchup against iFates, playing Ao Kuang in that solo lane. He and Skeeledon really punished that aggressive, mage assassin pick. Aquarius a little bit more traditional this time around, but still not finding any sort of solo kills or anything like that. Wowy deciding to ult the wave on that left-hand side just to make sure that he can back a little bit sooner. I like that decision by Wowy as well to expend his ultimate, because it means that when the waves meet, he's not really going to be losing any creeps by the time he returns to lane, and he's able to pick up the Warrior Tab at the same time as DayToRemeber. Skeeledon trying to secure his own speed as Cope comes right back into the jungle. Skeeledon only level 4 still, and so he's going to have to give it up. Kiki in some trouble on that right-hand side. Bluestone Pendant not going to be enough to find that solo kill, but certainly enough to get more pressure for Noble on that right side of the map. Cope successfully steals away Skeeledon's speed buff. Skeely still doesn't have that ultimate available. We're 4 minutes in, still only level 4. Skeely's been having a really difficult time as far as finding farm, considering he needs to be so wary of Copebby early on, because he doesn't want to have to expend his beads early, like we saw what happened to Venenu in the mid lane, because as soon as his beads are down, MLC is not opposed to dashing in aggressively on this Thoth. Especially not now that Cope has that ultimate, doesn't even need to use the Sash to guarantee it. If Stealth can find the stun, or Wubbn can find an abduct or root,
it's going to be a guaranteed win fire wheels for the jungler Naja. So now the fact is though that Venenu has his purification beads up once more, didn't get punished for using them pretty leniently earlier on in that mid lane. So that's one of the advantages of using an early purification beads, that your enemies aren't going to have their ultimates necessarily by the time that thing is still on cooldown, so you don't have to worry quite as much about getting punished for it.
Yeah, plus if he hadn't used it then, you never know what MLC's looking to do, and I could have certainly seen Wubbn trying to take a couple of tower shots if it meant the first blood secure.
For sure. Noble and SPL Gatekeepers tied up 0-0, 5.5 minutes in. Winner of this one moves on to the SPL. Kiki once more pressured out in this solo lane, but as you mentioned, Taco, this is basically to be expected with this matchup.
100%. You just can't do anything as Sobek early on, especially not against a Hercules. You can hold your own in the lane and be a tanky enough target that you're not going to die immediately, which is really what Gatekeepers need right now, especially because the second that they give up any sort of picks, that's going to be an early objective or grouping and a potential snowball effect. You just don't want to give up picks early on. Aquarius
finds the pull and the push onto Kiki, who's going for a ride with Cope. Terra ultimate is used by NeiruMah, and that gives Kiki a heal up in that sky, and now the rotation comes in from the Gatekeepers. Typhoon is going to hit a couple, but the ultimate from Venenu will not. Stealth stuck in the wall after a beautiful 2 from NeiruMah. No dash available to him. Frenzy's popped. Final Judgment goes off onto Kiki. A lot of ultimates used on each side, Taco, but I don't know if anyone's going to fall. MLC Stealth will. I cancel that. No ultimate out of Wubbn was already used, and Skeeledon finds the first blood onto the mid laner for Noble.
Can't count out any team fights whenever a Susano is on the map. The dash in, the damage, and the easy escape. It's every time. Oh my!
Bluestone does it! Wowy all the way downtown, finds the triple bounce, and gets the solo kill onto DayToRemeber. Unbelievable.
That's the worst feeling in the world as a hunter. Just, you think that you're going to be able to AFK farm that last wave out before you back, and next thing you know, you're getting triple bounce by Huyi because the ricochet now hits off the towers.
Man, that's rough. That's one of those moments where DayToRemeber's like, yeah, I'm just going to grab one more wave, and crap. That stinks there. Big play for Noble, and this opens up the Gold Fury potential for them. NeiruMah knows this is happening, but he's the only one even close. Look at where everyone else is on the map for SPL Gatekeepers. Throws up the 2, it's pulled out of range, abducted and silenced. Beautiful play out of Noble. They secure the Gold Fury and the kill onto NeiruMah. It's going to give them the lead, about 1,500 gold.
Wow, he's got to be feeling himself right now, too. I mean, that was just beautiful gameplay all around by him, and that one I would actually not attribute to RNGesus. That was him taking advantage of knowing the lane and the bounces, because you could tell that he was trying to line that one up for a bit.
Yeah, not only does that find him the kill, but the Gold Fury as well. Another kill on the NeiruMah, so now 2-0 for the Hunter. I love the play out of Wubbn there as well to silence out NeiruMah right before that Gold Fury secure starts going through. Make sure there's nothing the support can do. That's one of the things that I think NeiruMah in particular on this team we still see him go for plays like that where there's no way he steals that away from 4 members of Noble, and you just end up sacrificing your own life. Sometimes you just have to give up that objective.
It was also incredibly smart by Wubbn to pull the Gold Fury away from the walls of the Terra to ensure that the clap down, just in case he was somehow able to get it off, wouldn't have the damage to secure it.
Either way, Noble now on top by just a little bit. A little underneath 2,000 gold. Experience difference looks to be in their favor as well. Skeeledon has a slight level lead over Cope despite getting invaded on multiple times, but Aquarius has that lead up against Kiki and Wowy as well over top of a DayToRemeber. So the side lanes doing well thus far for Noble, and that bodes well considering that even if they're a little bit behind in that mid 3v3, shouldn't matter too much, especially with Wubbn being 2 levels up on NeiruMah.
A really big problem as well for SPL Gatekeepers is now without the Gold Fury being on the map, Noble's free to rotate to any one of these lanes and apply as much pressure as they want to.
And we could see that on the solo side. Is look at how Kiki's tower already taking about a quarter of its health. So you know that Noble could just go over there and get a kill on the Kiki and probably find that siege damage. As you mentioned, no danger of losing something like a Gold Fury on the other side of the map if they so choose to put pressure on the solo side.
And plus, in the mid lane, it seems as though they're having a little bit of difficulty with the XP splitting. Skeeledon, NeiruMah, and having Venenu all trying to share these waves when NeiruMah's so far behind already, it just makes things really stressed onto the mid laner.
And look at this level, look at this item lead for Wubbn. This is really big. Getting that Gauntlet of Thebes completed before NeiruMah even has that Emerald Mail. I mean, that's a significant lead in terms of levels and how it impacts the game. Kiki is able to get out of the ultimate from Cope, that diminishing returns. Usually the Windfire Wheels into the ultimate is a true combo, but not whenever Kiki had already been stunned out. Cope trades ultimate for ultimate, but NeiruMah also uses his, so in the end, a win again for Noble.
I'd still say that's an excellent ultimate by NeiruMah. Terra ultimate is so great at discrediting the damage from a Najah. So his timing has been pretty excellent. Anytime that somebody calls out the Najah ultimate, because I'm assuming that Kiki's calling out, I'm getting Najah ulted, it's immediately just the trigger by NeiruMah to just look for the ult for it to sustain his teammates.
Wowy lurking in the jungle, waiting for DayToRemeber to make a mistake, but Day takes the smarter pathing and goes back to his lane. Wowy wanted to invade on that purple buff, but with NeiruMah's rotation and everyone else very far away from this duo lane, no chance for the Hunter to try and make a play on the enemy buff. Still up 2 kills right now over top of DayToRemeber in particular. Both the Noble kills on their Hunter. Up a level right now on DayToRemeber, and both going for a pretty similar build. It's Ichaival right afterwards, and usually we're seeing the Executioner right after the Ichaival. Do you expect to see a Rage coming out of Wowy after that Exy?
I wouldn't be surprised, considering that that's what he's been favoring so far on his Hunter pickups, and just Rage is such a cheap crit item. It's such an excellent pickup when you're looking for the early burst damage, and considering the lineup that SPL Gatekeepers are running, there's a lot of squishy targets for a Rage to easily chunk away at.
That's true, but they do have the 2 frontliners in Sobek and Terra, so what might be a little bit difficult to punch through that amount of damage. Love the pickup from Aquarius right away, though, to help his Hunter do just that. The Shogun's Kusari, second item right after a Mark of the Vanguard. You heard Totally talk about it. That attack speed aura now, what, 25% to you and your entire team? That's just a ridiculous amount of attack speed that not only helps Wowy, but Cope as well. I mean, Najah's attack chain does ridiculous amounts of damage if he can get off that last shot.
I was actually just about to mention that it's not just an excellent item for your Hunter, but also your jungler, depending on what they're trying to run in the assassin role. And having the Najah with the crit possibilities already on his passive, it's just going to be such a nuisance in these closed team fights if SPL Gatekeepers aren't careful with their positioning.
But 2 Sunders picked up for Noble, so both Aquarius and Wubbn have the opportunity to do a little bit of extra damage and strip away the protections from anyone on SPL Gatekeepers. It seems to be a very common pickup for solo laners and supports these days. Do you like the double Sunder, or would you rather see a meditation? I will ask you that in a moment, as Cope takes a lot of damage, and now the Gold Fury started up by SPL Gatekeepers. Ven's turret there to do a little bit of zoning for SPL Gatekeepers. Venenu has that Vulcan ultimate. Does quite a bit of damage, but MLC Stealth charging that final judgment, realizes the Gold Fury's been reset, and cancels the ult. That's one of the strengths of Thoth, is that you don't have to necessarily pull the trigger. You not obviously bluff it there. Stealth looking for the stun on NeiruMah, but won't quite find it.
Stealth has to be careful before making his way through that jungle route, just in case NeiruMah was looking for the clap down of stun. Easy engage. I
like the early brawlers here from Cope. Augments that early damage and keeps that early game that Najah is so potent at in a good spot, but also some penetration, some power, and excellent against this Terra for NeiruMah, making sure that that Terra sustain won't be quite as impactful early.
Also, going back to what you said about the double Sunders before that mini possible engagement happened, it's interesting because I think that the double Sunder is a smart attribution for Noble, considering all the frontline for Gatekeepers is in Kiki and NeiruMah. So if one of those 2 dies even, they're going to have an incredibly difficult time in these teamfight scenarios looking for a backline peel as well as the engage. So the Sunder's perfect for it.
Cope lurking in that right side. Going to pull that mid-harpy out of range of Venenu's Magma Bomb, and Kiki secures his own blue buff with the help of Skeeledon. Kiki's still 2 levels down despite getting his own blue buff, and Aquarius probably going to start rotating here soon, Taco, to try and make use of this level lead that he's got for himself. That level lead is nice in that lane, but doesn't do a whole lot for you. Wubbn misses the abduct and immediately pulled in by Skeeledon. The Typhoon comes through, but Wubbn gets the revive off, but the Vulcan ultimate's waiting for him. Wowy finds NeiruMah before Wubbn falls, and he's going to be able to escape just barely, somehow, Wubbn survives, is able to get back to base. Noble, the only ones with a kill.
And I have to credit so much of that to Wowy and the raining down suns of his ultimate, really helping his support to escape from there, because Gatekeepers couldn't chase through that avenue. If they did, they're not only going into the damage of the suns, but they're having to deal with the rest of Noble's draft as well. And because of that, so much expended into Wubbn, and it's all in favor of Noble.
NeiruMah takes his second spill of the game. Now has the Gauntlet of Thebes completed and working towards what's likely to be a sovereignty in that third item slot, at least third full item slot, but hasn't hit level 12 quite yet, and could certainly use a shell like Wubbn has just picked up on the side of Noble. Sprint's another thing that we saw Flashpoint heavily prioritized, and Flashpoint's looked pretty good thus far, and you can imagine that other teams are going to start to look at that relic potentially, but I imagine Shell to be the likely second relic for NeiruMah.
Shell would be such an incredible pickup as well for NeiruMah, considering it would help mitigate a lot of the damage from the Hui ultimate, as well as the Najah and Thoth combo.
SPL Gatekeepers down a little bit of gold here, about 2,000 to be exact, and 2,500 experience. Almost 16 minutes in, winner of this game secures their spot in the SPL Summer Split. Aquarius in a bunch of trouble on this right-hand side, turns it around. Skeeledon has to use the beads to get out of the way of the boulders. Smart play there, out of both the solo and the jungle. But now Noble taking this opportunity, knowing Skeeledon's on that right side, to go for the Gold Fury. Vulcan ultimate over the top, only going to help Noble do the Gold Fury, but NeiruMah's up in the sky with Cope. Not enough damage to finish him off. Final Judgment not going to find a home either for MLC Stealth. Wowy rains down the suns as Kiki has teleported in and is making it difficult for Noble to try and retreat. Cope forced to blink out of that knockup coming out of the mid laner Venenu. Stealth gets his beats forced by Kiki. Sunder used Stealth, nowhere for him to go. He's gonna fall. Skeeledon finds another kill. Back-to-back kills for Skeeledon on the right, and now in the mid. Cope shows up, and this fight keeps on going until Venenu finds Cope with the kill.
And there's just nothing for Najah to do. He tries to get the sash off the ring toss, but no damage available for him, and instead it's going to be the SPL Gatekeepers who managed to turn that fight entirely around. Noble was just too disjointed. All their ultimates were proccing at different times, and ultimately it just led to Gatekeepers picking up the victory and the Gold Fury, which now means for that little bit of experience disparity that they were kind of struggling with before, completely wiped away. So
is that all it was? The ultimates were just on the wrong people at the wrong time? Because normally whenever the jungler goes and ganks solo and a team starts that Gold Fury up, that's usually a pretty free engagement for them. Even with the numbers advantage, Noble couldn't find it. What went wrong for them? It
was just Copebby's timing along with MLC Stealth. MLC Stealth's ultimate was unable to find a home with that Final Judgment, and because of that, they were missing a ton of damage for the secure on either a pick or the Gold Fury, which just means that SPL Gatekeepers have all the time in the world to do their counter engage, which is exactly what happened as soon as Kiki rotated in off the teleport.
And that's what you were saying could certainly happen for Kiki in this lane, is just kind of wait it out, get crushed a little bit for a while, and then all of a sudden it just takes one rotation from Skeeledon. He's right back in the lane. He teleports to that team fight by Gold Fury and makes a big impact for SPL Gatekeepers, allowing them to pick up an even one Gold Fury with that of Noble. Aquarius has no dash here, and immediately Kiki gonna go into those waters, lurking underneath, trying to put some damage out into the solo laner, but this time around, Aquarius pretty tanky. Sunder comes out from Aquarius, but not enough. He's very, very low. Terra ultimate used by NeiruMah as Aquarius still trying to buy some time. Skeeledon still able to get out of danger. Cancel that. The Blink ultimate out of Cope is going to secure the 1-for-1. Nice play out of the jungler for Noble.
And that response by Copebby was absolutely perfect, especially considering that had Aquarius just fallen for free yet again, that could have been a potential look at the Portal Demon by Noble, or SPL Gatekeepers, excuse me.
Wowy still trying to defend this middle tier 1 tower. Frenzy popped by NeiruMah. Venenu is the focus. Wowy's gonna find that easy cleanup kill, his 4th of the game. Final Judgment came through there from MLC Stealth, didn't make quite as much of an impact as he would have liked, as both relics forced there by Kiki in that mid lane onto Wowy. 2-for-1 in total. Noble end up on top after a nice play there from, again, the jungler and the hunter from Noble seem to be the two that are really making the plays.
And Wowy's been absolutely crushing on this Hui, and we've been accustomed to seeing him build the Rage item after his 3rd attack speed, but it seems as though he'd prefer to build the Executioner first, and then we could potentially see him falling into some crit. But honestly, I don't think that he really needs it. He is shredding alone just because of the Mark of the Crow and his Ricochet.
That's true, and there is some good front line here between the 2 Guardians for Kiki and NeiruMah, so I think the pen style of build would certainly fit what Noble wants to do, is shred Kiki and shred NeiruMah. I mean, that's how SPL Gatekeepers fell earlier on today to Flashpoint, was just a lot of focus on the Kiki at the beginning of team fights and then transitioning into objectives from there. Noble trying to take a page out of their SPL Defender brethren who secured their spot. Flashpoint going to be back in the summer split. Just a matter of who joins them. Noble now starting up this Portal Demon. Kiki's here with a minion from his lane as Portal Demon goes down in favor of Noble. NeiruMah pretty low already. Pops that Terra's Blessing ultimate, but Cope gets knocked up and a lot of damage onto him. DayToRemeber finds the kill. That Vulcan will get a chunk down Wubbn, who doesn't have his ultimate quite yet. Wild Hunt comes through, never gets a chance to use it. Kiki finds another kill. Aquarius with that Sunder push combination. Not enough to finish off DayToRemeber. Noble get the objective, but lose 2 for 1 in that scenario.
And that was probably the best case scenario for SPL Gatekeepers, with the immediate 2 for 1 response. Because of that, Noble aren't going to have as much of an advantage as quickly, and so they're going to have to delay any kind of pressure that they might have potentially been looking to place onto that Fire Giant or Soul Lane side.
Taco, I love this call. Immediately Noble Aquarius comes through that Portal Demon and starts with the Fire Giant. Luckily for SPL Gatekeepers, Skeeledon is there to sniff out that play, but that could have been a quick little Fire Giant if Gatekeepers weren't paying attention.
And I mean, it's really risky all around. Even if Noble were to have try and committed to that Fire Giant, having only 3 members available isn't a guaranteed Fire Giant by any means. And Kiki or even Skeely alone could definitely fight into a 1v3 scenario and look for the reset.
This game is pretty back and forth here thus far. 7-6 in kills. Gatekeepers has a slight edge in the kill department and in the gold department. Pretty big edge for Skeeledon in the jungle, level 17 to Cope's level 14. Cope has still made a pretty solid impact. The 1 kill that Cope has was on the Skeeledon, but Skeely's certainly getting the better end of this jungle matchup thus far. And
that's kind of just what you expect when you look at the 2 jungler gods themselves. You have a Susano versus Najah, and one requires a whole lot of execution. The other, not so much. Skeely he gets a get out of jail free card with the amount of mobility that he has, on top of the damage that he's able to secure because of the AoE provided by 2 of his abilities.
And he's got that Magi's Blessing now to give him a little bit of extra safety up against that Windfire Wheels ultimate. No blink ults anymore for Cope. You're going to need some sort of CC to get that bubble off of Skeely before he can take him up into the sky with his ultimate. As Noble starts to posture around this Gold Fury, Oracle Vision falls off for SPL Gatekeepers, who don't seem to have an ultimate around, or excuse me, a ward around that Gold Fury pit. So Noble could have the advantage to start up that objective if they so choose, but being a little bit down in golden kills, they don't want to try and force it too much, more waiting for the Gatekeepers to make a potential mistake.
And if I'm Skeeledon and Kiki, I am looking entirely at Wowy. Wowy has been probably the biggest distinguishing factor for the direction that these team fights are going to go for Noble. You take Wowy out of the picture, you're shutting down Noble pretty hard.
Gold Fury started up now by SPL Gatekeepers. Frenzy is available here for NeiruMah on that Terra, who's had a little bit of a hard time frontlining, only level 13, but has caught up to that support for Noble. Wubbn, who's sitting at level 14. Pretty similar item builds thus far, but it's no sovereignty yet for Wubbn. Instead went for that Heartward Amulet, whereas the sovereignty was completed by NeiruMah trying to get a little bit more physical protection. And as you mentioned, with Wowy playing so well, certainly the right call there for NeiruMah.
100%. Support builds, they're never anything set in stone. You always, and that goes for God builds in general, you want to build based off how you feel the game is turning out. Right now, it seems as though Venenu might be turning out a kill onto MLC Stealth, but just going to avoid it.
Really, really nice play there out of Venenu. Gets the Aegis out from MLC Stealth. Frenzy popped here. I don't think anyone's going to get here in time to defend this Gold Fury Taco. Already very low, and down it goes. SPL Gatekeepers find their second Gold Fury of the game. That's going to push their gold lead up above that 2,000 gold mark. really smart play there, and it really comes back to Venenu taking that 1v1 against Stealth in mid. Skeeledon playing aggressive now in the mid lane himself. That double knockup, and Cope never got a chance to save his own life, not even use the ultimate. Wubbn revives himself directly into danger as DayToRemeber finds his second kill of the game. All it takes is one small misstep, and Skeeledon makes you pay. Tier 1 tower falls, and now the Tier 2 is in danger as well.
And this is exactly what I was talking about. You had the Susano who's just having a free reign in that backline. MLC Stealth trying to get away. Aquarius has come into the mix, but he's against 4 members. I'm not sure he can provide too much support for too long.
Oh, again! Wowy, are you kidding me with that bounce once more? The triple bounces have gone Wowy's way. The heat-seeking missile ricochet. Double kill for Wowy, 6, 0, and 2. Gatekeepers get the Tier 2 tower. But Wowy, he wants to be back in the SPL, man. He is playing lights out right now.
It's the insane triple bounce and then misses the single on the jungle buff. That's a classic ADC moment right there.
That triple bounce was okay. So before you said that wasn't so much Wowy getting lucky. It was him playing the lane correctly. Which one was that, Taco?
I can't even tell you at this point. It's just honestly disgusting watching Wowy on this Huyi, but in a good way. And I think that SPL Gatekeepers, if they weren't paying much attention to where they were stepping in the jungle before, they're going to have to start, because Wowy's been all over the place with these ricochets.
Happy birthday, Skeeledon. You just ate a triple bounce that was the luckiest thing. One of those lucky triples. Now NeiruMah plucked back and then pushed back even further by Aquarius. NeiruMah takes the other escape route, and smart play out of him. Doesn't get knocked up by that bounce, but Wowy is here anyways. Those autos coming through. The frenzy popped. Cope gonna try and find him as Aquarius finally squishes down NeiruMah with that boulder. Cope takes up DayToRemeber. No ultimate waiting for him on the downside as Cope gets a nice ultimate out of Wubbn to save his life. Skeeledon falls to that of Aquarius as Wowy finds DayToRemeber. Now a 3-for-1 Kiki on the run here. Noble all of a sudden turns it around with the 3v1, and now they're looking at the Fire Giant.
And it all goes back to that mid lane fight. I didn't think that was going to go in Noble's favor in the slightest, and Wowy just completely proved me wrong. And now he's completely tearing through Kiki, just absolutely no chance. MLC Stealth beside him. This Fire Giant is Noble's.
It sure is. 4 members with it. Only Cope without the belt around his waist. And again, it comes back to the play out of Wowy there, just finding the nice follow-up damage onto NeiruMah after the good setup from both Wubbn and Aquarius. There's a lot of repositioning available to this Noble roster. I mean, you've got the Abduct from Khepri, the 2-1 combination from Aquarius, and then Wowy's able to chase down NeiruMah and start that whole fight off.
And now that he has the Rage available on top of the Chins, Eggsy, and Ickful, Wowy's packing a punch on this Huyi. I can imagine his last item that he's looking for is a Deathbringer. These crits are going to start coming in at around 8 to 1k every single auto. Good
luck dealing with that. Venenu and DayToRemeber have not been able to have the same sort of impact that they would like. Skeeledon's had a pretty solid game, 4-3 and 6, but top of his team in player damage by a pretty significant margin. Both Ven and Day sitting a little bit farther down than their counterparts. Wowy's obviously had a great game, but MLC Stealth as well. Only 1 kill to his name, and it was that one on Kiki as this team secured the Fire Giant, but 2 deaths in his setup, and just overall team fight damage has been pretty solid.
The biggest advantage that SPL Gatekeepers has right now is just how many towers they had standing prior to this massive swing in XP and gold for Noble, because now Noble are probably going to prioritize just taking down all of these T1s, T2s before looking to siege any of the Phoenixes.
By that time, the Fire Giant may fall off. You're right. Good news if you're rooting for the Gatekeepers, but this does mean that Noble's going to get a lot of gold in their favor. I mean, you're looking at 4,500 between the 3 tier 2s still left standing in each lane for SPL Gatekeepers, but this game is not by any means over. Still very, very close in terms of gold and XP. So Wowy's heat-seeking Ricochet finds another target. No kill that time, though.
No kill that time, but that's kind of just one of those bounces you do to show them that you know that you can hit them.
Yeah, a heat check. Just how hot am I right now? Hits it. Yeah, I'm still good. This is going to be a good team fight for us. At least that's what Wowy's hoping. Cope lurking in the jungle here, looking to find that Blink ultimate. Again, can't look for Skeeledon because he has that Magai's Blessing, but Aquarius is split pushing in that mid lane. The focus is onto Aquarius a little bit as Skeeledon puts some pressure onto the solo laner. There's the Blink ultimate. It finds Venenu up in the sky. MLC Stealth probably going to be waiting for him with that final judgment, but it doesn't find a home. The Aegis is in time there for Venenu. This does create enough space for Noble to find the tier 2 tower. They immediately have to back up as they just expended all 5 ultimates to get that tier 2.
And the Blink ult there by Cope was purely to try and get some sort of setup for Wowy or MLC Stealth. If they got the pick onto Venenu, it would be incredibly difficult for Noble to try, or for SPL Gatekeepers to try and hold off this Fire Giant Noble, because Vulcan is such a massive defensive mechanism. Now,
Venenu still has his ultimate, but no relics, and I think that's one of the things that really goes underlooked when it comes to Naja's viability, is that even if you don't find the setup, you know, wombo combo, final judgment kill, you still took out a major damage dealer for a significant portion of that fight, and it forces the entirety of Gatekeepers to fall back and try and help out Venenu, or step forward and put themselves out of position to try and harass MLC Stealth out of that ultimate. That Naja ultimate is just really, really strong in these team fights.
SPL Gatekeepers should definitely be happy, though, considering that they were able to survive without losing a Phoenix. And not losing a Phoenix is going to be so critical, because now they can contest the next Portal Demon or Fire Giant.
Fire Giant gonna fall off the next 15 seconds here for Noble. You're right, the gold lead really not even bad for Gatekeepers right now. Down about 4,000 gold, a little over 3,000. Almost everyone that you expect to hit level 20 has hit level 20 for Gatekeepers thus far. Cope still working on his max level, but everyone else for Noble right there. A lot of power items completed on both sides. Still waiting on a Rod of Tahuti or even Obsidian Shard for Venenu. Looks likely to be his next item, but Rod of Tahuti has been completed for MLC Stealth. Portal Demon goes down and Noble do secure it, despite Kiki's attempts to steal it away.
And I think that it's pretty safe by the Gatekeepers to just fall back a little bit. They know that FG is not going to be out for a few more seconds, though. Might as well try and protect the remaining tier 2 towers that they have, because if Noble were to eliminate those, that takes away a very high priority escape route.
A little bit of extra poke onto the opposition there from Cope. Kiki coming around the backside as Noble want to take this tier 2 tower on the solo side of the map down to make sure that their Fire Giant engagement makes it so that Gatekeepers have nowhere to run if it starts to go poorly. Good stun there from MLC Stealth, and immediately backs up, just poking out a DayToRemeber as much as possible. Now, Gatekeepers do have the sustain from Terra, but that level of poke will still be relevant.
That level of poke isn't going to heal up anytime soon by Terra, and as long as Wowy keeps applying these constant barrages of ricochets, it's going to be incredibly annoying for Noble to really know just when, for SPL Gatekeepers to know just when Noble's looking to engage.
Noble's Portal Demon has fallen off, and so they retreat and go back to the Fire Giant. Gatekeepers defended their tier 2 successfully there. Aquarius up in the front line, but the focus onto Kiki. Another Blink ultimate is successful from Cope. Wowy drops the Suns on the backside, but no follow-up damage quite yet. DayToRemeber still able to escape for the moment. Meanwhile, Kiki and Skeeledon have forced everyone else from Noble back. Only Aquarius and Cope still up near the front. Good pluck back there from Aquarius. The Vulcan ultimate not going to hit from Venenu as Aquarius sends Kiki there for the kill. Reset there out of Wubbn's ultimate as MLC Stealth turns around and finds the kill onto Skeeledon. 2 for 0. The damage dealers from SPL Gatekeepers just can't get in there.
And those respawn timers are going to hurt SPL Gatekeepers so much. Pretty much a minute until Kiki and Skeely are up. They already know the Fire Giant's been secured by Noble. They only have 2 T2s remaining. And now for Noble, they're just going to group and either push down the mid lane or this remaining solo lane tower. And whichever they decide to go down first, I mean, it's just going to be so hard for SPL Gatekeepers to try and defend off of their Phoenixes.
This is a good late game composition from both teams, but the late game potential for SPL Gatekeepers is Venenu and DayToRemeber, and neither of them have been anywhere near their damage dealing opposition, whereas MLC Stealth and Wowy have been able to just pound onto Kiki all day long. Just 3, 3, and 7 for the solo laner. Just has not been able to be that effective frontliner just because his own damage dealers are so far back, whereas those from Noble are not.
Cope might be 1-4, but he has recognized that all he needs to do is land his sashes and look for the ults to burn actives, because if he burns the actives, that just allows Aquarius to press W all day long and be in the faces of DayToRemeber and Venenu, which has worked out pretty much every single time for Noble.
We've talked a lot about Wowy, but Aquarius has also had an excellent game out of that solo lane, the new addition to Noble out of Flashpoint. 5-2-5, second on his team in player damage, has been a phenomenal frontliner. Has not had the problems that Kiki has had in terms of tanking up the opposition as he finds that solo tier 2 all by himself. Now has the option to wrap around if he wants. Gets the Mad Guy's Blessing out from Skeeledon, as well as putting a little bit of extra damage into the jungler. This is a great start to this team fight for Noble as they look to find the last tower on the map.
Skeely losing his Magi's there is going to be massive as well, because that leaves him susceptible to the stun from Stealth, the sash from Cope, or even Wowy's Ricochet too. And
the Blink ultimates from Cope, which has been really good. And that's the one thing, going back to Cope, yes, he's 1-4, and he still hasn't hit level 20 35 minutes in. But Naja as a character's job is to just take out a higher priority target than himself, and again, looking for DayToRemeber. Not even gonna need any help this time as Wowy finds that kill. Venenu deletes Stealth though with his own ultimate. Big return kill there for SPL Gatekeepers to try and hold this Phoenix.
That's incredibly lucky that Venenu was able to knock out LC Stealth, but it might not make the difference as Wowy just completely deletes Kiki.
9-0 and 7 for the Hunter, trying to make it back into the SPL. Phoenix falls to the hand of Wowy. Venenu just able to get out of that abduct range for Wubbn. 4 members still very, very healthy here for Noble. Another stun onto Skeeledon. No Mad Guy's Blessing. The egg is going to save him for the moment, but Wowy just focusing down the Phoenix. Another one falls, and Noble starts their retreat, getting what they came for. 2 Phoenixes, the mid and the right-hand side, exposing that Titan of SPL Gatekeepers.
And losing both of those Phoenixes now means that SPL Gatekeepers can't afford to leave their base. Any hopes that they had of trying to contest the Portal Demon or the Fire Giant was completely wiped away, because if they try to take up an engagement outside of their base, that's game over.
Gatekeepers have quite the hill to climb here, Taco. Even if they were to find the teamfight victory here, look at how many towers they still have standing. 4 in total, 2 in each of the side lanes. That means that's a tanky Titan. Though with how long these respawn timers are, if Gatekeepers can find a clean D side, they may be able to march up the mid lane and end the game, but I don't know. They may have to win 2 team fights here back-to-back in order to get back into the SPL.
The question is, how do they even take out Wowy? There's no way for anybody on SPL Gatekeepers to get into Wowy's face. And you imagine that it'd typically be Skeeledon with Susano or Kiki looking for the frontline engage, backline chase down. You just can't.
Kiki pulled back in by Wubbn and stunned out by MLC Stealth. Final Judgment not going to get fired off. Kiki uses his ultimate to get back to safety. Going back to what you were saying, there's no one to really get into Wowy's face. I think that while Susano still is dominant in the early to mid stages, this is where that Hydra's Lament buff or nerf starts to really hurt him, as he doesn't have that 100-0 potential in the late game up against a character like a Hunter, such as Hu Yi, that he can't find those 1v1 kills. He can poke out Wowy, but not find that kill, and that's a huge difference.
Well, even if you were to find the 100-0 opportunity, there's a Khepri. If
sure.
Wubbn's ultimate hasn't been burned out, I guarantee you Wubbn's only looking to really be rezzing Wowy right now, because MLC Stealth, yeah, you're doing a great job by all means, but Wowy is hands down just such a threatening factor for SPL Gatekeepers, and if I'm Wubbn, I would probably prioritize Wowy over the Thoth right now.
Stealth actually going to get the red buff here, and not Wowy, surprisingly enough. Though it is 38-minute Thoth,
the one shot,
who has full build and a full build Book of Thoth, the Soul Reaver, the Ethereal Staff, the Rod of Tahuti. I guess it makes sense. Either way, Noble trying to secure their return to the summer split. Up 17-11 right now in kills, and looking at the Fire Giant pluck there onto Aquarius. Frenzy popped as the Gatekeepers look to burn down the solo laner. Typhoon comes through. Cope coming around the back, finds the ultimate there onto DayToRemeber once more, who was really sick of going up that high. MLC Stealth found Kiki earlier on. Aquarius still doing his job frontlining as Stealth handles NeiruMah on the backside with help from his teammates. Gatekeepers only have 3 left remaining, and none of them are frontliners. Good luck getting past Aquarius at that stage, and Noble going to secure their 3rd Fire Giant of the game.
And while that entire team fight was happening, the Fire Creeps are just pushing even deeper into SPL Gatekeepers' Titan room. So now that those waves aren't as pushed up as they once were, it's going to be all too easy for Noble to look to just siege down this middle lane, 5 members strong now, and just try and end the game.
Neither Skeeledon nor Venenu have ultimates, but we'll both have them soon enough. I think the threat of that Vulcan ultimate is enough to deter Noble from just going for the win outright there after getting the Fire Giant. They still had quite a bit on the respawn timers of both Kiki and NeiruMah, but instead decide to play it a little bit safer and push up the only wave where they don't have fire minions, this left-hand side, trying to knock down the final Phoenix remaining. SPL Gatekeepers coming into the day, I mean, coming into relegations as a whole, across both regions, I think every team, every fan on the outside was saying, yeah, I don't really know who's going to make it. Oh, except SPL Gatekeepers. They're going to make it.
I think a lot of people just forget how different of environments it is to be playing online and be playing in a LAN setting. It makes all the difference.
Wubbn going to get plucked back into that Phoenix. Good driving strike, focuses out Kiki. Cope, first time he's missed an ultimate in quite some time, and he immediately pays for it. Skeeledon finds that kill. This could be the opening that Gatekeepers need. A good ultimate there out of MLC Stealth. Knocks back both Venenu and NeiruMah. That Vulcan ultimate up over the top, does over 1,200 damage to Wowy, but not enough to knock him down. Noble's still here knocking on the doorstep. Phoenix in some trouble, and that's going to fall.
There's no way that they can hold on to their middle lane Phoenix. Everybody was just so poked out on the side of SPL Gatekeepers, but still a very valiant defense by SPL Gatekeepers, ensuring that Noble can't at least end the game right then and there.
And that's what it comes down to, is it's how these team fights have gone for Noble. Did Cope hit his blink ult? If yes, then win. If no, then lose. That's how these team fights work in a Naja ult composition. And that time, Cope a little bit off the mark. Yes, Noble still get the Phoenix, but not able to end the game. If Cope finds DayToRemeber again, for what feels like the millionth time, I'm sure, for Day, probably Noble goes on to win the game. Instead, Cope takes the quick spill. Noble only gets the objective, but those are the risks. It's the risk reward you accept whenever you lock in Naja for your jungler.
And it's the same for the enemy ADC or just any carry in general on the side of SPL Gatekeepers was going to be aware of the fact that Cope is looking for the pure one-shot burst, and if he gets it, GG team fight.
And even if you use the purification beads, it's not in time sometimes. I mean, that blink ult is so fast. You have to really be you have to be in the head of Cope and knowing that he's aiming for you, and then you trust that he hits it, and otherwise you just kind of look like a fool using your purification beads. But I'm sure DayToRemeber and the rest of SPL Gatekeepers would prefer to look like an alive fool than a dead member at this stage in the game, because one death onto a key member could be enough to get Noble the victory. Still have the Fire Giant for about a minute here on 4 of the 5 members. Cope the only one without it now. They look to find this right side Phoenix.
And I honestly am almost anticipating that Noble might be a little bit too aggressive too soon.
MLC Stealth pokes Skeeledon down to 2/3 HP as he's going to go back and regen a little bit. Kiki gets his Magi's popped by Aquarius, who another good pull out of Aquarius, knocking off a Magi's from a member of SPL Gatekeepers. No Magi's quite yet for NeiruMah, but he could be going for it. Kiki gonna get plucked back, sundered, and erased. Wowy puts double digits on the board for himself, 20 in total for Noble. They find the quick kill underneath that right side Phoenix. NeiruMah's ultimate not enough to save the life of the soul laner, who suffers his 6th death. Right side Phoenix gonna fall without much contest, as now Noble marches on to this left-hand side. This pesky left Phoenix that has not fallen quite yet.
Kiki didn't even have a chance to ult there to try and gain some CC immunity. He was just completely shredded by Wowy and friends, and now it's looking like this Phoenix is having to face the same fate.
Wild Hunt doesn't hit anybody as Cope finds 2, double kill for the jungler. The left side Phoenix certain to fall this time. Frenzy popped, but it's only the duo lane remaining for SPL Gatekeepers, as they are the ones who may be falling here, but DayToRemeber is going in. Double kill for him on his own Titan. Aquarius still on the objective. Wowy goes up and down, knocks down DayToRemeber. Double kill to end it for Wowy, and Noble's going back to the Pro League.
And just like that, both of the teams that were formerly in the SPL keep their slots. And I mean, well played to SPL Gatekeepers in that last matchup. That was certainly a very strong effort by them to try and take out Noble, but it does seem as though Noble were able to just hold on to it, and very confident victory by them.
Flashpoint doesn't even need to play their last game up against Quignitas. They are in both Flashpoint and Noble. Congratulations to them. They return to the Smite Pro League, the exact opposite of what we saw in Europe, where both Pro League teams get relegated. This time in NA, both SPL teams return. I don't even know who production just told me replays were for, but I can make an educated guess. It's got to be Wowy, right? I mean, he was all over the place on this Huyi.
And it was really just a telling tale from the very start how this game was going to go with Wowy on this Huyi. When you're landing the early triple bounce ricochets like Wowy was able to, that's just it. You know that this game is probably going to be yours.
You know what's crazy? This isn't even the craziest triple bounce he hit this game. That was not the craziest triple bounce. That
was one of the sicker ones, though.
Oh,
I'm not
taking
it away. That was absolutely beautiful. It's just, you think that you're safe on that tower line. He's so far back, and while he's blinding it up, Dave just was not anticipating it.
And even more impressive than the, 12 kills that Wowy got for himself, the 0 deaths. I mean, this is a composition that can easily get into the back line. Skeeledon in particular, this is the one. Are you kidding me? I mean, through the jet stream. That's a joke, man. Skeeledon, happy birthday, dude. That's what you get. A present from Wowy, hand-delivered from his back camps.
It's even funnier from the second angle. you just know that Skeely's there like, are you kidding me?
Oh, yeah, he is not pleased, and probably neither is the rest of SPL Gatekeepers. They're going to have to spend another split down in the Challenger Cup and watch as both Noble and Flashpoint try and do a little bit better this time around during the summer split. Congratulations to those teams who have made it. That's going to do it for us here for the NA relegation. So all the relegations now over and done with. Excited to get the spring split started soon enough later on this month. Thank you so much for watching. From all of us casters, production, especially Raymond Peckies, want to wish you all a happy Mother's Day. Have a great day, everybody.